We have no right to choose in someone else's place. We have no right to take another person's life because we did not give them life. Even if we are women, we are not life givers. We are only the means through which life is manifested. There is only one life giver who is called God. My name is Diana Paul and I will never be pro-choice. Dear friends, this is the last video of the series Why I Am Pro-Life, finally. And because of the values that I have, I must repeat what I said in the first and second video. If you had an abortion, if you support abortion, or you practice abortion, I want you to know that I don't condemn you. But I fundamentally disagree with you and I will fight with all my being against the ideas that you promote because they are morally and rationally wrong. In this video, I will talk about abortion in cases of rape, disability, and overpopulation. And because I support pro-life choices, I will give you some of the alternatives to abortion. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like to hear more life promoting content. And now, are you ready for it? I will begin with the argument that everyone likes to put forward. What about abortion in cases of rape? What can I say about this except the fact that this argument is misused, misinterpreted, and misunderstood? And let me tell you why. First of all, abortion is wrong. I meant rape. Rape is wrong and criminal, and rapists should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, without exception. Even castration, if you ask me. But instead of this and strengthening laws against rape, the world found another solution. Legalize abortion for all women who remain pregnant as a result of being raped. There are plenty of problems with this. First of all, rape is extremely rare. The Alan Guttmacher Institute, which is a pro-abortion research institute, published 2 studies in 2004 and 1987 about the reasons for which women have abortions. And I know they are the most quoted ones, but what I'm trying to say is that they are 17 years apart, and in both it shows that rape represents 1.5% or less from all the reasons for which women have abortions. So, it is an exception. An exception cannot be used to define the general rule, because the general rule is that in 92% of cases, abortion is elective. That means that the reasons do not include health, incest, or rape. Now tell me, do you support abortion in cases that do not include rape? If you do, don't bring forth the rape argument. If it doesn't convince you, because it doesn't to limit abortion only to cases of rape, then it doesn't convince me. But I do not support abortion in cases of rape either, and there are 2 main reasons for this. First, with what is the baby guilty for being conceived through rape? Does it have less value than a baby not conceived through rape? One deserves to live and the other deserves to die? Yet you apply to the baby, to the innocent child, a worse punishment than to the criminal, the death penalty. And the second reason is that abortion does not erase the rape for the woman. It does exactly the opposite. It adds trauma to trauma, because now the woman has to undergo 2 violent acts. Abortion does not heal women despite what you are made to believe. So, because abortion doesn't punish the perpetrator of the crime, doesn't prevent further assault on other women, it hurts the woman, and it kills an innocent child, I am against abortion even in cases of rape. Let's see now next on the list. The babies with disabilities are better aborted. This argument is often brought up and I'm sick of it, and my answer for them is, really? I mean, really? Who on earth made you the judge of the world? Who made you think that you know what is better for others? Okay, this belief that people with disabilities are weak and have to be eliminated from the society is evil, it's unjust, and it's tyrannical. You don't believe me? Okay, fine. Then do you know which is the second country to legalize abortion in Europe? Nazi Germany, under Hitler. The first people to be killed were not the Jews, don't worry, were the unborn German babies prone to disabilities, not to mention about the child euthanasia that happened there. Second, you cannot decide in someone else's place what is better for them. In other words, you cannot take their life in this context. Third, if actual or potential disability after birth is a reason to devalue children before birth, this sends a cruel message to the people with disabilities already born. Please, you're my guest. Go tell someone in a wheelchair or with Down syndrome that they should have never been born. Go, I'm serious, go and tell them this. If you truly believe in the ideas that you promote, you should have no problem with this. Fourth, it's a human right violation to kill someone because of their disability. Fifth, we pretend to be a civilized society. How can we be one when we don't protect the most vulnerable and weakest of us? A society's ethics and morality are directly related to its treatment of its sickest, most vulnerable and smallest members. Sixth, instead of funding abortion, this fund should go to improve facilities for the disabled and encourage people to adopt if someone doesn't want to parent a child with disabilities. The conclusion is, you don't need to kill anybody. Let's now talk about overpopulation. Overpopulation, they say, it's a good enough reason to support abortion. Tiny little problem with this. Overpopulation is a myth. It doesn't exist. What do you mean a myth? But there is hunger and poverty. That is because of corruption and inefficient distribution of resources. In 1976, in an article in the Scientific American, Dr. David Hopper asserted that the world's food problem is not caused by not having enough resources to support the current population, but because of the economic relations between countries. Also, many scientists estimated that the current agricultural resources of the world are capable of providing for more than 40 billion people. Do you imagine that? 40 billion people, that's 6 times the current population. And they want to cut half of it, actually more than half of it, like 5 billion of it, because there aren't enough resources to provide for us all. What a lie! That's a lie. That's a big lie. Okay, but there's still pollution. Industrialization, not overpopulation, is responsible for environmental degradation. So clearly, it's better to invest in this and find ways to reduce negative economic externalities rather than wasting money on supporting abortion. But then how do you explain that there are so many people in the cities? Yes, there are, I don't deny it. I'm just saying there's a difference between being overcrowded and being overpopulated. Here's a fun fact for you. Did you know that we could fit all the people in the world in the state of Texas? That's how many we are. Also, there are many studies which show that the birth rate in the urban area is lower than the birth rate in the rural area. This means that cities get overcrowded because there's a tendency for people to move from the countryside in the city, not because of overpopulation or because the birth rate is astronomically high. The conclusion is that overpopulation is just a myth, and if it wasn't, the solution wouldn't be killing more than half of the population. It is actually shocking to see that the evidence shows that the world is not in danger from overpopulation, but from underpopulation. The American Enterprise Institute observed that over the long term, the aging population is growing and the workforce is shrinking, which means that it will lead to a fall in the living standards. In other words, economic hardship. So the solution to the world's population problem, and even future economic problem, is having babies, not aborting them. I will address very quickly an argument now which I personally find weak, selfish, and cannot survive in a debate, and I'm not even sure why people bring it up, because probably it sounds good. What if the woman is poor and she doesn't have the resources to take care of her baby? Let me begin with this. We don't eliminate poverty by eliminating poor women's children, because you're trying to eliminate the consequence of the problem, not the cause or the root of the problem, and it's not efficient, it's not going to work, it's not going to help anybody. Then it's degrading to poor women to imply that their children are not welcome just because they're poor. Poor women deserve the same support and life-affirming alternatives as wealthy women do. And let's be honest, abortion will not bring a woman a better job because there is no cause and effect relationship. So if a woman is poor, is pregnant, and is a potential single mother, she should be helped and encouraged to go to social centers where she can ask for counseling, financial or mental or both. Or if she really doesn't want to keep the baby, she should be told about all the options available, not just abortion, because abortion is not the only choice. Honestly, abortion shouldn't be a choice. And since we're at this subject, let me just be very clear. Pro-choice people are not honest when they say they are pro-choice. They are actually pro-abortion. If they were truly pro-choice, they would encourage women to choose other options, but they don't. Most women don't have abortions because they have a choice. Most women have abortions because they believe they have no other choice. And tell me, is it honest to tell them that abortion is the only choice? No, of course not. So here are just a couple of the solutions that a pregnant woman can choose from in different situations. The woman has an unplanned pregnancy. What is she going to do? There are 3 potential responses to an unplanned pregnancy: parenthood, abortion, or adoption. The problem is that we created such a culture of comfort and of death and of eliminating responsibility that abortion is a far more convenient option for women who don't want to have a child and don't want to be pregnant. But the real question is not whether abortion is convenient for women. The real question is whether or not abortion kills an innocent human being, an innocent child. Because if it does, then the convenience argument is invalid. Again, the funds which go towards supporting abortion should instead be spent on promoting a culture of life, building a culture of life, and supporting the other two choices. Parenthood, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with keeping, taking care of, and raising your own child, or adoption. I know, there are a lot of misconceptions about adoption, but they are based on misinformation. The most used claim is that there are so many children in foster care and adoption centers that we don't need more to suffer there. This is just a superficial view of the situation. It is estimated that there are around 2 million couples in the United States waiting to adopt a child. And another interesting fact is that the Donaldson Adoption Institute has reported that around 81 million Americans have thought about adopting a child at one time in their life. This is backed up by what the National Council for Adoption says, that there are many couples hoping to adopt for every adoptable infant. Let me put it into perspective for you. That means that there are more couples hoping to adopt than infants to be adopted. And now listen to this, around 98% of unmarried women who give birth decide to parent their children. Only 2% of them place the child for adoption. So the problem is not that there are too many children. There aren't if you look at it from a comparative perspective. The problem is that people are discouraged to adopt because they are not supported in the process, they are misinformed or really uninformed. Because adoption is not promoted, abortion is, solely based on political interests. For example, from 1970 to 1986, the total number of domestic adoptions, annual domestic adoptions, decreased from 175,000 to 104,000. And it's not hard to guess why. As we discussed in the first video, abortion was legalized in 1973 in all of the United States, no matter the reason. By making abortion illegal, we will be encouraged to find other options which do not include the murder of an innocent child, do not have the harmful effects that abortion has on women, and are beneficial to the society. Another solution is neonatal palliative care. I'm talking about this because there are many people who say that babies with lethal diagnosis should be aborted to prevent them from suffering pain. But that is not medically supported and is not true because babies as young as 20 weeks can feel pain. So they can feel the pain caused by abortion. So, instead of abortion, neonatal palliative care is a compassionate and medical care for terminally ill babies which ameliorates the pain during the dying process through medication, ensuring that there's as little pain as possible. After all, they are human beings and have to be treated with respect. And the last solution that I'm going to talk about are baby boxes. I was surprised to hear about them too, not gonna lie, I had no idea what they were. A baby box is a place where people can bring babies, usually newborn, and abandon them there safely and anonymously to be found and taken care of. They are usually built in the walls of hospitals, churches, adoption centers, social centers, and it's a practice since the Middle Ages. So we can see it's quite efficient since it has such a long history. It's a very good alternative for the mothers who want to remain anonymous and not want to appeal to the authorities, and is an alternative in which the baby remains alive. So, I can't believe I'm saying this. We go to the end of it. Let me just close by saying that nothing is more immoral than killing innocent persons under the label that it's better for them not to be born in such an ignorant world. Repair the world then. Take on your responsibility as a citizen, as a human being, as a person, and do the right thing. Don't kill them because it's the easy way. Let's be wise and find life-saving and life-promoting alternatives because they are more than enough. I am Diana Paul, always a pro-life advocate, and you just watched Break Truth.